Welcome to the Jewish Diaspora, a podcast exploring the political, social, and cultural implications of life in diaspora. We are your hosts, Ben Yanowitz.
And Jordan Yanowitz.
Unfortunately, we couldn't be joined by Zach Smarin for this because he's currently at the flagship event for the European Union of Jewish Students, where he's spending a week in Spain, learning, networking, and organizing with Jewish students from across Europe. We're really excited that he is there because in the coming weeks, we will be having an episode with interviews that he is recording while he's there, as well as a discussion about what he's learning and his takeaways from the event.
Today, we have a very special interview with my friend and colleague, Tzion. Tzion is part of the Abayudaya Jewish community, Jews from Uganda, who to some are still not recognized as Jewish. While he may not identify as a diasporist Jew, we believe that his story and that of his community is a salient example of the diversity of Jewish life across diaspora. Tzion is a brilliant Jew who has done tons of his own study on scripture and developed his own authentically Jewish identity. At our summer camp, we were incredibly fortunate to have such a deeply knowledgeable representative from such an underappreciated part of the Jewish story. This interview was recorded at camp, outside, surrounded by trees and insects. Because of this, your ears might pick up a few cicadas or other bugs, which were keen to join in on our fascinating conversation.
Unfortunately, while those cicadas got to join, I couldn't. Because Jordan recorded this at camp, neither Zach or I could join this interview. However, we're really happy that Jordan could record this interview because it's such an important part of the Jewish story that is left out by most mainstream histories and narratives.
Without further ado, let's get into the conversation.
We are carrying the stories of the ones who came before. What stories will be told of us when we are here no more? We commit ourselves to action. It brings meaning to our days. Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise.
It's 10 o'clock on July 21st, Monday. We're sitting in Camp Newman in the Meditation Grove. My name is Jordan. I'm a guest host for the Jewish Diasporist, a podcast focused on the social, cultural, and political dimensions of Jewish life in diaspora. And today I'm joined with
Tzion from Uganda, and his first time at Newman in the US as well.
Tzion and I have been working the last 6 weeks at a Jewish summer camp focused on nature programming, helping campers learn how we live in community with one another, in relationship with nature and with spirit. And over the last month and some, Tzion and I have had the pleasure to have a few conversations about his own experiences, my own experiences, and Jewish life and all of its richness. And so today we're going to be talking a little bit about the story of the Abayudaya and Tzion's connections to Judaism as a person and a living story. So today we're going to start with a simple question, lay some groundwork. What was your experience like growing up in your home community in Uganda?
Well, I would say it's something really very interesting and fascinating. It's really a special experience because sometimes it's challenging. Because like you are with a diverse community whereby everyone have their own ideas, and to some extent you have misunderstandings. But it's like sometimes I feel very happy, though sometimes you feel like people are not into your ideas, or they might not like you as a person, but after some time you see a change. Like if people were doing something different, you see at least they have tried to adapt to the change or what you have been introduced into the community as well. In my Jewish life, I started as an Orthodox Jew, Sephardi, and also lived in a conservative community for many years. And I have like an Orthodox Teudat Gil. Living in several communities, like it has really been challenging. Because I lived in the Orthodox community at first, and it was really going well because that's where I started. Then later on, I joined the conservative community, whereby I was staying with them. They were very welcoming, I can say. But in terms of ideas, it wasn't good. Like, it was really hard because different ideas, they think differently. And like being conservative, some of them think they are not supposed to do some things. Looking at like religious denominations as a limiting factor to people's abilities at some time or to some extent, because someone will say, okay, I'm conservative, well, I can use my phone on Shabbat. And if you say, okay, you shouldn't use your phone Shabbat, I say, I'm conservative, I can use it. And sometimes like they take it as a privilege that they have to use it. So like maybe some of them don't use, but some of them say, okay, I can drive. And they'll think they have to drive. And that's some like exceptions to sometimes like the minhag to some people.
A minhag?
Yeah, minhag like a custom. So like, and that was really challenging. Being Orthodox, saying, okay, I'm from an Orthodox community and I've joined you people. They'll take you as someone maybe outside of the community, despite like practicing or what they are doing and going by their rules. Like I have this thing like following house rules at most times. When I reach in a place, look, I don't introduce my rules, but unless I see something is really going wrong, then I'll say maybe you shouldn't do it that way.
So are the communities that you've experienced and lived in across Uganda, are they usually pretty dogmatic, pretty rigid in their laws and their customs?
To some extent. And to some extent, I've ended up being kicked out of some communities.
For violating their rules?
Exactly. Like trying to maybe bringing in suggestions, which I might think they might be fit. Maybe they would unify us. Like I always look at a perspective of things that are common among us rather than things that are different within us. Yeah, focusing on the common things would like bring more peace rather than like focusing on, okay, he's conservative, he's Orthodox, like, oh, he's Reform, he's conservative, like that thing, like it brings in a lot of people, like, okay, why don't we say that we are all Jewish? Like most times I always want to introduce myself as I'm a Jew without attaching like religious denomination to myself. So like by doing that, it allows me to experience all Jewish customs and everything. It allows me like maybe to go. Right now I'm at Camp Newman, which is a Reform camp. It allows me to do that because I know someone will say, okay, why are you doing at a Reform camp? You Orthodox, why are you going there? Like, okay, I'm Jewish then. I can go there. They're Jewish. In Uganda, I live with non-Jewish people and we can get along. How about my fellow Jewish people? We are all Jews, meaning we can still sit together, even though there are little differences, but they don't count. So, to some extent, like, okay, when I moved to like an Orthodox community, I was more like, there are things which conservatives are doing and they're good, maybe better than the Orthodox. So, I reached there. Orthodox most times read prayers, everything in Hebrew, and like it's really very fast. That to some extent, we leave some people behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And some people feel less connected to their communities, as we may think, because we think, okay, to some extent, someone will give a reason. Okay, we are doing it very fast because we don't want people to get fed up of this, because we don't want people to starve on Shabbat. Okay, it's Shabbat, you came here to pray, right? Okay, why don't you give it time? So, like, that also, like, brought in a lot of chaos, because, like, okay, when I could lead services in an Orthodox community, I could be pretty slower than normal because I felt like mainly the women were always left behind and sometimes like sleeping in the synagogue and they go back as if they have not done anything at all. So like when I could lead services, I could say, okay, at least this time we didn't sleep. You could wait for us to catch up and all that. And they really enjoyed it, but the men didn't like it. So they said, no, you're really like making us stay in the synagogue for a very long time. To some point that I was interrupted during the Torah, like when removing the Torah from the ark, someone interrupts me and say, I was doing some prayer, which I'm supposed to do before taking the Torah out, and someone interrupts and says, no, just remove the Torah, would like to go. To that point, I tell him, if you want to go, please leave. But to myself, I say, I will never lead prayers in the synagogue again.
Yeah, it takes a certain kind of spirit to interrupt someone when they're saying a prayer to open up
the
ark.
Sure, like I did what they thought, but I never took back the Torah. So when the Torah reached the Bima, where it was supposed to be read from, I didn't work as the Gabbai, call people up the Torah. So I called someone else, probably part of them, and took my seat. And I didn't step at the Bima again.
So you're not afraid of just stepping back, stepping out?
Yeah, most times I step out and leave them to continue. Like, I don't want like chaos with people. So you can do how, if you feel like you don't want to learn, good. It's upon you. But I have tried my best to tell you what's right. So I sit back, and the next day, they call me. I try to comment on something which was in the group. And they first give me a call. I actually first say, okay, you're not part of our community. Please, you're not supposed to know anything about this community. I say, but I got my that girl from this very community, and I'm registered as part of this community, but I never felt connected to the community because
you had different beliefs,
different perspective, and probably from a different tribe.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Sure. A new person in the community. I left the east to the central region, whereby like, okay, I know the language like that, but they don't know the language whereby most Jewish people are speaking in Uganda. And sometimes they feel like maybe you're coming to control them, because like most of the people know the language called Lugwere, whereby most every Jewish person knows it.
Yeah.
So like they feel less connected to it as well, I think.
Yeah.
So
we've talked about how your communities growing up studied Torah.
Sure.
And you yourself have done quite a lot of Torah study as well, even going as far as translating the Torah into Luganda, right?
Sure.
Would you want to share a little bit about this practice that has been a part of your daily life for many years now, and how the intertextual elements and being fully engaged has shaped your own Jewish experience, your Jewish identity?
Sure. Yeah, I would start maybe from where the Jewish people of Uganda came from. Once upon a time, there lived a man. It was about 100 years ago or more in Uganda. This man was a very disappointed man, I can say.
What was he disappointed with?
By the British, or by the British colonialists. Like, they used him to obtain a lot of territories in Uganda, and he helped them to secure Uganda as a British protectorate. By then, he wanted always to be the king of the Eastern Uganda, but they never gave him that title. So, out of disappointment, when they turned down his ranks and all that, he was kind of a warrior and very diplomatic person, like he could talk to people. So, being disappointed, he resorts to study the Bible, which was given, and he could study it in Uganda. So it had a lot of Christian perspective in it. He took his time. He joined some people, they were called Malachi. Yeah, it's not like in Uganda, they call it Malaki.
Malachi?
Yeah, Malachi, yeah. In Uganda, they call it Malaki, like K. So these people used to pray on Shabbat, which is Saturday, but they still believed in Jesus. So like, okay, he reads. And he says some things. Okay, he says, oh, the Malachi never did the Brit Milah. They said, okay, that was the past. So they were believing in the New Testament too. So they could say, okay, you don't Brit Milah, do Milah. Why? Like he asked them. He says, no, if you're doing that, then it's for the Jewish people. Then, okay, he says, okay, I think I'll do this. Okay, but if you do that, then you'll be a Jew. He says, okay, I'm a Jew then. So like, he says, now I'm a Jew. The next day, like, he gets circumcised. A few years later, he gets a child, circumcises him, and even the subsequent children he got circumcised, and also like start teaching other people, as he was someone who influenced, teaches people around him, and a lot of people bought into his idea. That's how Judaism started. Though,
as a response to the Christian
exactly, as a response.
Perspective. Interesting.
Yeah. So, and this all came because he was disappointed and he had nothing to do. So, like, he has been disappointed, nothing, he can't do anything yet. He has a lot of time. So, like, to come maybe as a way of, like, revenge to the British or to the colonists, like.
Or a spiritual
sure.
adventure, so to speak, a way to forge their own destiny, perhaps, pick their direction and strive towards it.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's how that man calls himself a Jew. And that's how Judaism starts. Till like the 1960s, 1970s, whereby again we had like someone who was very cruel, was called Idi Amin. A lot happened. We also had like the plane which was hijacked, Air France, in 1976. And like Yoni Netanyahu died in that instant. Israel lost a soldier, but several Ugandan soldiers died too. Sometimes they say, okay, it was 7 days at Entebbe, but it was 9 years with Idi Amin for the Jewish people of Uganda. So it was really more tough than maybe the 7 days.
And could you explain a little bit more who Idi Amin was?
Idi Amin, that was the president of Uganda, who at one time also trained in Israel as a paratrooper.
Okay.
So he was like a heavyweight champion by then. Before that, he was like a sports person.
Sure.
So he did like won a lot of like boxing championships like in 1950s, in the 1950s. He was a general. Then he captured power when the president left for a conference. Before he came, he said, okay, I'm now the president, don't come back.
What?
Yeah, he did the coup.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and he ruled for 9 years, by the way.
Yeah.
So like to some extent, some
And how
people...
did he affect the Jewish communities of Uganda?
I'm really not sure. It wasn't really specifically the Jewish people. He was tough to everyone.
Yeah.
Who was a threat to his power.
Huh.
It was not specifically maybe Jews, because every person really faced the toughness. Economically, Uganda was up.
Huh.
Yeah, he's someone who never liked corruption. The way he could deal with corruption, if you were corrupt, you die. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't live again. He liked development. If he says something good, he says, okay, when he travels maybe to US and says, okay, there are good roads and things. Okay, he comes back to Uganda, start now. You don't have to say, we are planning or doing this, like this way. I need here to look like how it is.
An authoritarian.
Exactly. Like more of a dictator. But
Yeah.
and things pretty worked. Uganda was really good by then. In terms of development, but though a lot of people died, but I think like current people, very many people have died than Idi Amin killed.
Sure. But
Like they have been killed in silence. Like so, there okay, he could kill like in the open, and not everyone could know he did it. Yeah. So like some still like after 2 years after the incident, like people still they like we had like the same president again, like Obote came back.
okay.
Yeah. So that happened like with the Jewish people too. They were never allowed to practice like Judaism. Then later on they had like former kibbutz to revive Judaism.
And when was that?
That was after the reign of Idi Amin. Like it was in the 1980s now. Yeah, that's how, because he ruled from 1971 to 1979. Then he was taken out by the Tanzanian
And
rebels.
who came back to form this kibbutz?
The people, we had some people called Samson Mugombe, who were the students of Semeika Kunguru by then. That guy who was disappointed by the British. Yeah, but he died in around 1928, I think. So he didn't live for long.
He had students.
Yeah, he had students. So one of the students who took was like Samson Mugombe really took on the traditions very well, and they really had other people whom they always had arguments with, but they tried to move along. They had children. So this guy, Samson Mugombe, had daughters who were young by then. So what he decides is to give his daughters to different men who were actually even old, so that maybe the Jewish community could thrive. Because if his daughters could go out, they wouldn't be Jewish. And also there was some kind of tradition whereby women were not allowed to eat chicken and all that. So like he did one trick that his daughters could eat the chicken. So who would want to take a woman who eats chicken? So like, okay, the Jewish people would take their daughters, and that's how like he made it like.
Is that still a thing in Uganda?
No.
Women don't eat chicken?
It's no longer there. But some still, those who lived in those days, they still don't. Some.
Interesting.
Yeah, but right now they do it. So like they uprooted that culture. So that's how he won it. So these people mostly, they gave birth to boys who moved on the community. And from that, one of the grandchildren is like Rabbi Gershom.
And these people grew up in the kibbutz?
Yeah, in the kibbutz. Yeah, they come also get wives from the kibbutz. Like girls could come to the kibbutz and boys. So like they could just appoint wives. By then you couldn't have a choice. They say, okay.
Is that like an arranged marriage?
Exactly, like more of arranged marriage. Okay, so and so you're going to marry so and so. They would even bring for you the girl without even your consent. They bring her there. Maybe she'll stay there maybe 2 years, like, but still she'll be your wife. After some time, you learn to love her, and that's how like the Jewish community like thrived.
Yeah, so it's a little autocratic, but it grew the community.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, so like after some time, it goes like then around the late 2000s, we have the first conversion ever. It was a conservative conversion.
So would you explain a little bit more why there was this conversion and how it affected your own Jewish experience and identity?
Before, we had the reform. It's something whereby what I'm speaking is something you'll not get maybe in any of the websites about the Abayudaya. Or the first maybe people to approach like the Abayudaya for conversion were Reform Jews. It's not strange because they are more inclusive and having like that inclusive aspect within them. Like, okay, they need to like have every Jewish person closer to them. But these people being converts and having faced a lot of challenges, and the way the traditions of the Reform Judaism were, they thought it wasn't worth their sacrifices. So they said no. we can't live like that because it's in vain. We didn't do for anything because we left the other side thinking it's going to be different, very different, but much close to the other side. So they said no.
They wanted a more strict
More strict laws.
more
Exactly.
regular ritual.
So they say, okay, in good terms, we appreciate your kindness and everything, but it's not worth it because it was a lot that had gone through and a lot that lost maybe even relatives because they are no longer connecting to each other due to Judaism. So they wanted something more strict. So an Orthodox rabbi comes, ultra-Orthodox, they accept. They say, okay, I think we should go by this. But this Orthodox rabbi fails to make a Beit Din.
A what?
A Beit Din.
Which is?
Which can convert the people there.
In the eyes of the institution.
Exactly, in the eyes of the institutions, yeah, Judaism. Like, as you know, like right now, like they say they will go out to convert people, but they never do. So like he tries to form a Beit Din, he fails, so he gives up. Then later on, the conservative community, the Rabbinic Assembly, like Union for Conservative Judaism in the US,
Yeah.
so goes there. For them, of course, they had like the Beit Din, so they do the conversion in 2002. But still, there are a lot of arguments. They don't approve it.
Who doesn't approve it?
The Minister of Interior and Jaffe.
Israel, the head rabbi.
Yeah, they don't approve it. They say, okay, they're a community, but how did they become Jewish? They didn't have a rabbi. So we had no rabbi by then.
It surprises me that the Reform movement was the first to approach the Abayudaya.
Sure.
But within Reform Judaism, we kind of have this understanding that if you're part of a Jewish community and you follow Jewish traditions and you say you're Jewish, then you're Jewish. And then they still felt the need to say, like, we can, make this relationship more institutionalized or more codified. And it seems kind of hypocritical within the Reform movement.
Sure.
But from conservative or Orthodox perspectives, where you need a rabbi to ordain you as Jewish as part of a conversion.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of tensions within these different movements that are all Jewish.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's really a lot. So like they don't approve it. They said they didn't have a rabbi. So like you can wonder, like even this rabbi someone to go to a rabbinical school, he needs to be Jewish. So how is he going to be Jewish when he can't be Jewish? Like
it's a circle.
It's a circle.
There's no way to become Jewish.
Yeah, it's like denying someone the right to be Jewish. Like,
yeah.
Okay, he studies still. Actually, they went with his brother, came with his brother to the US, and they had their conversion in the US.
Yeah.
His brother called JJ. It's Yoav, So they have a conversion, then they go make a conversion there. So he studies like rabbinical. In 2008, he gets ordained. They still do another conversion. Okay, so now it's valid. But still, they don't accept it. And then later in 2016, they recognize, they say, you recognize community. But still, they say, later on, they say, you are an emerging community.
An imagined community.
Yeah, emerging.
A community that you've lived in.
Just emerging and like, it's upcoming.
Emerging.
Yeah.
Okay. An emerging community.
Emerging community.
But this community's been around for...
more than 100 years.
More than 100 years. Interesting.
So... it's just some kind of,
Does that mean the colonists have only been there 100 years? So are they an emerging Jewish community?
Yeah, emerging Jewish community, but the community has lived for more years than the state of Israel has lived.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and you tell them an emerging Jewish community.
Yeah, I feel like that hurts a little bit.
It really hurts.
Yeah.
But we can live with it. We know we can get along with each other. So.
And you're still Jewish.
Yeah, sure.
They can't take that away from you.
Yeah. Not everyone in Israel thinks that way, that we are an emerging community.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's more like political like that, maybe. We don't understand that. So it comes to my connection to Judaism now. Like, why do I decide to do the translation? It is through Uganda that we were able to become Jewish.
Your own Jewish voice.
Yeah. It is through this language whereby we feel like more connected and when you're speaking it or you're reading it from the Torah or the Chumash, you feel much more connected and you feel like you're being talked to rather than hearing a story.
Sure.
Yeah. So the challenge was that there were previous Luganda translations of the Torah, which were Christian, and you see like in the middle there are always references to the New Testament. And it was really kind of like a threat to our Jewish community. Because if people keep reading this and it's connected to the other side, people will not gain a full understanding of what we need. So I decided to sit down, do the translation, including in my ideas, which had been studying for about 3 consecutive Jewish cycles, and try to put them in. It's a translation, but it's not just a translation. Like there's kind of encrypted message within, whereby if you get your time and read it, portion by portion, you realize a lot of things. And you come to ask yourself, why is this like this? Why is this like this? So a lot of things have changed. And it's also good if you have like maybe even the English one, and that you see a lot of differences, whereby there are things whereby, okay, we have like khatat being translated as sin offering, whereby if you translate as sin offering, you're telling people to focus more about sin. So use cleansing offering.
Yeah. So it's not focusing sin, it's
on
focusing
sin.
the becoming clean.
Clean, yeah. Because like you can't tell me, okay, we have a woman who just gave birth. Did she commit a sin to give birth?
I don't think so, but I suppose some Christians might take that perspective.
Exactly. So why do you still call it a sin? Like, why do you call it a sin offering? So taking it as a cleansing offering is much better and kind of positive rather than focusing on sin.
Absolutely.
And consider ourselves as a learning people rather than people who are sinning every time.
Yeah.
So, and also there's a word like people always translate as fear. You shall fear the Lord your God. It's not good. It's not a good word because like fear disconnects you from something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like we prefer using the word awe.
You owe.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Awe. Yeah.
Or in awe.
Yeah, in awe.
Yeah.
Not you awe, in awe of something. Like
Yes.
you're connected to it, but as also like respect for it.
Yeah. In a state of shock.
Exactly.
So you, in your communities, you use Luguele, that's right? That's the tribal languages?
Yeah, it's the tribal language.
And you would also read it in Hebrew, the Torah in Hebrew.
Yeah.
And would you also have an English version when you were studying?
Yeah, we have the English version and we have the Uganda version, which I did.
The Christian version as well as the now.
Yeah, as
Or
now
Jewish
the Jewish
version.
version. So I call it a Jewish translation, not just like
Yeah.
a Jewish translation.
And so there's a lot of different versions of the same text that you're
Exactly.
reading and discussing.
Sure.
And so how is that multilingual community that you've been in, how has that shaped how you think about the diversity of Jewish thought, or how we struggle with the text and struggle with these ideas?
So what I can say, like most every language is unique. That's the first thing. Like there are very things special about different languages. So like when you read the Torah in Hebrew, mainly the names, there's something in it. It's just a name. If you read it in English, it's just a name. But when you read it in Hebrew, it brings some sense.
There's something deeper to
There's something deeper to it, rather than the other way. There are some words whereby they really mean something different, and on the other side, sometimes you might read it in English being diverse of words, like you can have very many opinions about something, translate the same word for different ways, and it's also like something beautiful, like you're not tying something to a specific answer, but diversifying to everything. And when you come to the Luganda language, it's more of emphasizing. You feel like being talked to. Like, okay, when we talk about the daughters of Zelofkad, some translations say what they are saying is just. But in Luganda, so what the daughters are saying, Biansonga, like something like it's important. If you really try to bring it back to English again, it means what they're really talking about is important and it should be given attention.
Yeah, these are the words.
Yeah. So like it should be given attention, not just, okay, it's just like, and you see the word which is used there, it's not Sedek, something different.
Interesting.
So when you read it again in Hebrew, it's something very different. Reading like in multilingual or several languages really gives like several understandings of things, and maybe sometimes you understand why other people are thinking differently than you are thinking. By not saying that everyone should follow this and giving like room for other opinions, I think it's something like really very beautiful. Like, okay, when you come to the Varim, these are the words. Like, if you go, these are the words that he spoke to them. It's more of like, okay, I know you guys. You haven't been so good, but please, maybe.
And this is Moses pleading.
Yeah, Moses pleading. Yeah. Okay, you have been good. You have gone through a lot. So be strong. It's more of encouragement, criticism, and appreciation or showing gratitude.
Yeah, and so that tone doesn't come across in every language.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, and sometimes maybe you may have it if you read it carefully, if you give attention to it. Okay, even though it's in Hebrew, Elihadivarim. So these are the words. In Uganda is, Vievigambo. It's really like something whereby it makes sense if you give attention to it. And whereby, again, you're saying it's said to all Israel. So we have most times like, whereby Moshe is addressing Bnei Israel, addressing the Nesim or the heads of Israel, like addressing maybe an Ada, a community. Is it a community? Like maybe like a congregation, something like that. So like very different terms being used. And here like in Devarim it says call Israel, all Israel, like everyone inclusive, not just the biological children of Israel, but all Israel as a nation.
All the people who identify as Israel.
Yeah. So, and I think maybe some people don't read that. They don't pay attention to that. Like, that's
especially when it's translated the exact same way.
Exact same way. Yeah. So, to some extent, people try to comment a lot about it. And I think sometimes maybe you should give more attention to some things and reading like parasha, the Torah in context and perspective, rather than faith, just only faith. Okay, believing in God, yes, we do, and believing in the words of Torah. But read them in perspective. Your perspective about the Torah shows the perspective you have about daily life, the perspective which you have about other people. It's really like if they could read that, like he spoke to all Israel, meaning he was speaking to those who were there by that time.
Those who were listening.
Who were listening.
Are listening.
Those who were not there by that time. And those who will come. So like it's something real fascinating whereby you see that, and there's also like where it says those who are not standing with us today and those who are here with us, like addressing everyone inclusive. And like most times they say, okay, you say there's this statement always say like an Aramean was my father, talking about Abraham. Sometimes they always, I don't know why they always twist it to like, and Esau treated him badly. I don't know why. Actually, they said Lavan like treated Yaakov like in an ill way. So, but when you read very well, like you see that Yaakov was the one. Lavan asks him, "Okay, you cannot work for free for me. What are your wages?" Like, okay, he could work for free and still get nothing, but still like Lavan offers him something. What can I pay you? Okay, you're someone who's related to me. It doesn't mean that you should work for free. It was that bad? Why would you call Lavan a bad person?
Just pure reading your own context into the text. Like, this appears bad to me. So that's what I read.
Yeah. So like he could still, if it was someone else, he could still not pay that. Yaakov. So it's really kind of very different.
Yeah. So your Jewish life is very textually attuned. It's very grounded in a personal engagement with Torah, Tanakh, Chumash, and others. How has that struggle to find your own meaning within the text affected your life within the communities you grow up in, especially with the process of going and translating the whole Torah and reaching out to rabbis and trying to find your own way in the community?
Sure. Yeah, it's been like having like different perspectives about this. Personally, it has made me a lonely person. I haven't come like to live so closely to the community or within the community. But sometimes I try to take that as positive and try to use that loneliness and maybe to the advantage of the community still. So like it was about loneliness that I got time and still did the translation and like work on several projects, which I still help the community. Even so most times I feel like rejected within the community, but still I don't stop because like most times I'm always looking at what's unifying us. I don't want to talk about the differences we have.
Yeah.
I always want to talk about what's common amongst us. Like, okay, if we have a lot of things that are very different from us, like just look for one thing that brings us together. If you feel like there's nothing in Judaism that connects us, but we are all human beings.
Sure, absolutely.
We live in the same community. We live in the same location.
Yeah.
We have the same blood and everything. Like, why don't we take that? We are all humans. Why don't we maybe unite that we are all humans rather than saying,
absolutely,
focusing on differences. They really don't count. So having peace is the most thing we can have. Yeah, that's why to some extent I went ahead and like invited my non-Jewish neighbors for Pesach at my home. So
and was that received well?
Yeah, they received it well. They were happy about it and they liked it.
Nice.
So they came to know about me. None of them knew I was Jewish.
So you're not very open with your Judaism in your community at home?
Not really open because some people are really like insultive. They will insult you. They will say, what is this? Jews are bad people. Sometimes when they go to maybe the market, maybe it's your keeper, they say, okay, sometimes I have to put on a cap so that they don't see it. Because if they say it, they see someone will even refuse to sell you something because you're a Jew. Like,
so there's some everyday anti-Semitism.
Yeah, anti-Semitism. Like someone will say, okay, no, Jewish, I don't like Jewish people. You say it when you're hearing, you do nothing. What are you going to do? So just keep quiet. Some extent, like whereby I've been confronted with some people whom you think they are people of dignity, and someone tells you, you can't be Jewish. I felt African, you think I can't be Jewish. So, and that's something that happened when I was at school.
Yeah.
Trying to have my menucha somewhere in a corner. This man comes with a bodyguard. Yeah, he had a bodyguard. So he asks me, what do you think? Are you Jewish? I told him, of course, I'm Jewish. He said, no, Jewish people are not black.
Wow. And so you're kind of being put in multiple categories.
Exactly.
Here you are, just a human trying to live your life.
Exactly. So, and the thing of sometimes okay, we are talking about BIPOC.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel uncomfortable talking about categorizing some Jews in something.
Yeah, we're all Jewish.
You're all Jewish. So black Jewish of color and all that. Okay, it's good. It's good you're really showing you care about us. You show you love us. But I think sometimes not necessary. Maybe it's good we don't talk about some things. Because let's look about what's really common amongst us.
Yeah, because just by focusing on the things that are not important. Or have been harmful in the past, we kind of reify, we bring them back into the present.
Exactly.
Sure.
We are talking about that, and I think maybe we can move on.
Yeah. So in America, we do have a long history of, racism and institutionalized systemic perpetuation of racism. And a lot of people are trying to deconstruct that and trying to go down to the bedrock and figure out how can we change, our relationship with each other into one of coexistence, the recognition that we're all humans first. We're Jewish people, we're living, and we, especially in a Jewish summer camp, we should be living in the moment, in the present, in the community that we've been building.
Sure.
That moment, that presence that we're living in can be affected by the past. And your community growing up was also very much affected by its history. Ben was interested in the question of how your identity as an African Jew has been impacted by the history of colonialism, which you've already mentioned. It started with the British imperialists, and how the Holocaust might have been part of that history that affected how Jews are understood in Israel, the world, Uganda, in your own life.
Sure. To some extent, when you read about history, Uganda was one of the places whereby selected to settle the Jewish people there. But okay, had that idea. But I think most Jews were very comfortable staying where they are,
right,
than moving to the land of Israel.
Absolutely.
So it's not until, because Judaism starts even before the Holocaust. Well before the Holocaust in Uganda. And this, I don't think the Holocaust started with the Jews.
Right.
Many people have been killed in Africa, and no one talks about it.
Yeah, there's a famous quote that the Nazi regime came out of colonialism coming home to roost.
Sure.
It has already been going on for generations in Africa and Americans.
You can wonder, someone coming to your home and they start saying, you're going to take this. For you, take this part. Okay, for you, you're going to take the bedroom, and you're going to take without your idea. And they will even tell you, so for you, you're supposed to live here. Maybe you live in the backyard, the owner of the home. How do you feel?
Yeah, you're just getting ordered around, even though it's also your place.
Your place. And someone does that, very comfortable in his place. So it's still something very annoying, but I think no one has the right to do that.
Absolutely not.
This being colonialism, if it wasn't colonialism, maybe we wouldn't be Jewish. We appreciate they brought the Bible, and from that we were able to get what is really important to us and live out.
But you had to subvert the Christian narrative that was being put forth in order to find that Judaism.
Yeah. Sometimes I really don't, people Jews fast because the Torah was translated into another language. I don't fast on that day, because if I do, I would be a hypocrite to myself. It's I'm not happy to be Jewish. Why do I have to be mourning for something that made me Jewish? If the Torah was not translated, I wouldn't be Jewish. I wouldn't know about what Judaism is.
Yeah. So you're not mourning colonialism.
I'm not mourning colonialism. I'm celebrating the reality. I'm living the reality, and I'm really celebrating. I appreciate they brought the Bible, and I would say thank you. And the good thing, why I would say thank you, they didn't remove what is there. They did not remove the Torah. They left it there. So it was all about choice. So they were trying to teach New Testament, focusing on faith and believing and life after
death.
Yeah. But I think trying to take you up from the reality, which is now, you should focus on the life now. So the good thing, they left that reality within the Bible. They did not take out the Torah. They left them there. And like, out of disappointment, people found time to read. Okay, they are telling me this, but they're not allowing me to read. But okay, you give me. Let me try to read it. So when you go through, you find the reality. And it again becomes a threat to them. But I thank them that they give people a choice. Though some, they try to hide it, but they still couldn't remove it from there.
Yeah, they gave you the opportunity to struggle with the text.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. You took the opportunity.
The opportunity to struggle with the text.
With the text.
Yeah.
And to find your own interpretation and kind of reject what was being pushed down from above, the people who are giving you the Bible.
Yeah.
But, using that as a way to struggle against kind of that colonial instinct.
Yeah. And from this, we have learned to take like every situation to our advantage, however challenging it might be, and take it as an opportunity. Be hopeful, everything is for the good. Everything be for the good. And it was like, that's how we became Jewish. And I think most times we shouldn't always mourn because things are not going well on our side.
Yeah.
So like most times we mourn for the Beit HaMikdash being destroyed. But I think to some extent maybe we should show gratitude. What that change has brought about. Beit HaMikdash being destroyed.
This is the second temple.
Second temple. What change did it bring? It's more very positive.
Yeah, I mean, Judaism emerged following that.
Following that, like everyone can like pray, can worship, everyone can become Jewish. Like
we don't depend on animal sacrifices.
Animal sacrifices,
like we have communities.
Exactly. Like right now, we are depending more of like how we interact with other people, rather than sinning and taking a sacrifice. And you see that now our life is not more focused on sin, but rather than learning
and life
itself. So I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think maybe people should always learn everything happens for the good. However much it's pressing you. Okay, we say Holocaust happened. Yes, it did happen. It was very sad. I don't like it, but it led to something very good. We have the state of Israel.
For better or for worse.
Sure, for better or for worse. If it wasn't the Holocaust, the Jews would say, no, I'm living a good life. Why do I need to go to Israel? Why?
My family, we moved to America before the Holocaust, before World War II started. And a lot of people were already moving. This diaspora was expanding in the early 1900s.
And why didn't they move to Israel?
It was a political question. And I think there was an economic answer, frankly.
That's why people say, if things are going bad, they always say, find a reason, say, okay, but how do I go there? I don't have enough money. The conditions are not good, okay? You say, economically, you don't have money, you can't buy a ticket to Israel, or you cannot support yourself in Israel. And when things are good, you say, okay, everything is good here. Why do I need to go there? I'm living a very good life here.
So change comes out of...
Yeah, so in all circumstances, people have excuses to something. That's why, like, I prefer reading, like, in Shemot, not saying, let my people go. It's not like that. It's send out. Send them out. If you're not willing to go, they will send you out. They will drive you out.
We have to be willing to go with the change.
It's a change. And that's why, like, people always don't want to go. Like, most times, like, they wait for things to really get bad before they think, okay, maybe I shouldn't be here.
Yeah. And so that's where we really need to be working to build that better future, to know that we're on the right path forward, or otherwise, if we're just sitting still and being complacent, we can end up where we don't want to be. We have to recognize and go with the change. So I just wanted to wrap up with one last question. From the history of the Abayudaya and their relationship with Jews of different denominations and non-denominations, what do you think is something that Jews across diaspora should learn about Judaism, or about the fact of living across the world and how we relate to each other, how we relate to our homes? What can we learn from that history?
I think to some extent, maybe you have to consider everything, be positive about everything, and always be hopeful and optimistic that things are going to be better. Because you can't prove hope. You cannot prove it, but it's good to have it, because someone who doesn't have hope can't do anything. Can even take their own life. So Abayudaya, despite the challenges, they have always loved to be Jewish, and have always persisted and done everything to remain Jewish. And it's the most beautiful thing maybe the world should learn about. We all struggle in the same way. We all have the same challenges. When an anti-Semite finds a Jew, black, white, any color, he'll say you're Jewish and I don't like you. He will not say, because you're black, I'll treat you very well. No way. Even though it's your fellow black, he'll say, no, you're a Jew. Being Orthodox or conservative or Reform, I think looking at what unifies us, and also maybe being able to experience what other people experience, Coming at Newman has like taught me a lot of things. Never to judge people before you live with them or before you know how they think, their perspective, and why they do that. There's something I found here, like, which is not anywhere. People loving being Jewish.
Loving being Jewish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is something I wouldn't ever say in my life. It's something which I said at Newman for the first time. I love being Jewish.
Wow.
I was never being proud, like being Jewish. Like
It
being
has always been a struggle.
a struggle.
Here it's a little easier.
You know, it's very easier. Everyone is almost Jewish. Everyone around you, and everyone is accepting. And I look like all of us can give in our own way. So combining all that, that's why even in the tribes of Israel, not all of them were talented in the same things. Yehuda is talented in the same different. Levi differently, and all other people differently, and that's what makes a nation. Being able to bring up all those skills.
Our community, even.
Yeah, our community. So, like, if we think, how about we think about this way? Okay, Reform loves being Jewish. How comes, what if they come and teach others how to be Jewish, how to love to be Jewish? How comes, what if they teach everyone the love for Judaism?
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that Orthodox people as well could teach a whole lot to Reform, and we could form some sort
maybe
of
the Orthodox come
synthesis.
teach about the Torah and everything, like how observant, how can you be observant, maybe in a diverse community or in diaspora. How about if you come together, like join all our skills? Orthodox, are not good at saying you love being Jewish. Reform has that. Why can't we allow them to teach us that?
Yeah, that's a great question.
So let's consider, like, we cannot give in the same way. Not all of us can give in the same way.
Yeah.
But we can give differently, and when you bring everything together, like,
Yeah, I feel like
can be
a true
successful.
community can only be made real when we can all bring our full person into it. You know, we can all find a way to understand the world that relates to the whole in a positive way, in a way that we can all live kind of harmoniously.
sure.
There isn't tension.
So it's something where, by like living in several communities, I've lived in Orthodox community, I've lived in a conservative community, I've lived in a Reform community now. And I understand what's ought to be Jewish. And I've learned a lot. I can live anywhere comfortably. I know if I'm living in a Reform environment, I'm very comfortable living there. Living in an Orthodox environment, I'm comfortable. In a conservative environment, I'm very comfortable. And some people see it as uncomfortable. Some rabbis, because he's conservative, he cannot enter an Orthodox synagogue. He cannot, what the hell is that like? You're looking at as an abomination, like how would I call it? Something like you cannot do. I think like to some extent like identifying ourselves as something limits us and limits our abilities and changes the way we look at things and others.
So I asked you to share some teachings from the history, but you also gave some teachings of your own. Do you think there's anything that you can teach us about Judaism, about what it means to be a Jew without having to put a qualifier on the front of that, being Reform or
Sure.
Zionist or whatnot?
Yeah, to some extent, most times, like, being able to do what you love, because most times, not looking for, how would I say, acknowledgement from someone else that you're Jewish. I think it's really important for yourself to first acknowledge that you're Jewish.
To affirm that identity.
To affirm that identity, I'm Jewish. And that's why coming here, like, to the Reform, like, I love being Jewish, you first say it to yourself.
Absolutely.
Then someone say, wow, okay, he loves being Jewish. And it's a pleasure to be a Jew, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes doing what you love is really important, and being persistent and resilient on something and being hopeful that things will work out is the most important thing in life that you can have.
And you find that within Judaism? That is a central teaching?
No. It's not there. Sure, it's not there. So sometimes, like we say, okay, I would not always think people believing in Moshiach that is going to come and save you. Like, life here, being good to other people and having positive relationships and healthy relationships with other people is much more important than being holy. Yeah, say like you're very holy. And because when you say you're holy, you disconnect yourself from other people or from the community. You can't even just say from a Nazarite. Like, okay, he says he's going to be very clean. He's going to be very, like,
Pure.
But at the end of it, always bring a cleansing offering. Why?
Because we're not pure enough.
Yeah, but other people, the normal person, not bringing it for being normal. So, like, I think to some extent, just be like other people. Don't try to be above others.
Yeah, be a part of the community, not
Exactly.
the head of it.
Sure. Yeah, and also, like, being out of the community doesn't mean you're not part of the community.
You can still participate.
You can still participate.
And you've done that in your own ways.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Though some people may think, okay, he doesn't pray. He doesn't come for the morning minyan. True. But sometimes I'm using that time to study Torah. sometimes. And maybe I may pray at a different time. I may not be able to come to the synagogue to join the minyan, but I think sometimes like maybe it's important.
And yet still all the way out here in California, you're joining textual study groups and minyans from
Uganda and
thousands
Israel
of miles away.
Sometimes it's really interesting that we are having like trust studies. People are in Uganda, people are in Minneapolis, some are in Israel, some here in California, and you're all connected.
Yeah.
It's something really beautiful and we should appreciate.
It's a miracle of the modern times.
Yeah.
There's going to be people that hear these words all the way across the globe.
Sure.
And hope that these teachings help us all affirm a little bit more of our own Jewish identities and lives in the world. That's going to conclude the recording for today. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon or day, whatever time you listen to your podcast.
To sing what's good and true, to bring about redemption, it's what we were freed to do. For what's the point of being here if we're not moved to change our ways? Aleinu l'shabeach, it's time to live our praise. We are carrying the stories of the ones who came before. What stories will be told of us when we are here no more? We commit ourselves to action. It brings meaning to our days. Aleinu l'shabeach, it's time to live our praise. It's up to us to own the vision. We are an answer to a call. It's up to us to live the words we speak for the benefit of all. It's up to us to bow down deeply. There's a broken world to raise. Aleinu l'shabeach, it's time to live our praise. Aleinu l'shabeach, it's time to live.